Hi, I'm Spencer reporting for Kids First, and today I have the honor of talking to Mr. Guy Bass about the new animated feature film Stitchhead, which is described Frankenstein meets Monsters Inc. Stitchhead is based off a story in Mr. Guy Bass's book series that brings to life quirky, heartwarming tale full of monster mayhem, unexpected friends, and cinematic thrills. Stitchhead is released in theaters on October 29, 2025. Thank you for joining me today, Mr. Bass.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Where did you get the idea from Stitchhead?
Well, the idea really was I was reading about Frankenstein, and I really wanted to write a kind of gothic horror but for children. And I had my thought was, what if you had this mad scientist like Frankenstein, but he'd started small. Instead of creating a huge, big, impressive monster, he created something little and then he'd forgotten about it. And the idea was, what would happen to that little forgotten creation? What would it feel? Would it want to be, would it want to escape? Would it want to be remembered? Would it want to be loved? And that was where it all started.
How long did it take for you to write the book?
I think the first book probably took 5 or 6 months. Yeah, I started it and then I showed the beginning of it to my wife, and she said, "Yeah, it's not right." So I went back and started again. So it took a bit longer.
Stories often change a little when they turn into movies. What was one thing you wanted to keep from the book and add it into the movie?
So, well, to be honest, the changes that the filmmakers made were mainly kind of after Stitchhead leaves the castle. Because in the first book, he doesn't really leave the castle for long. And I actually thought the changes that they made were really they were really fun because they were really visual, they were really cinematic. They had a lot of movement and excitement, and you could have a lot of music and kind of all the stuff that you couldn't have in the book anyway. So I thought, yeah, I thought they did a really good job of that. I've been really really pleased.
Stitchhead is one of the professor's very first creations. Why did you choose to make Stitchhead's identity be centered around being the first creation?
Because then Stitchhead has this sort of inherent need to be important, because he's like, well, I should be important because I was the first. Because when the young professor created Stitchhead, it was just the two of them. There was nobody else. There were no other distractions. They were the best of friends. And so when Stitchhead is forgotten, the pain of that loss is more profound because he was the first. He was the very first creation of the professor, and so he feels that loss very profoundly.
Did you, in the book you intend for the character to leave the castle and still be friends with like Creature and have him go after him?
So in the book, certainly in the first book, Stitcher, he doesn't get that far in terms of leaving the castle, and so he doesn't need to be rescued by Creature in quite the way that he is in the film. Creature definitely does do a lot of rescuing in the book, but it's in a slightly different way because the story plays out differently. But he gets to leave the castle in subsequent books, and yeah, Creature's very rarely far from Stitchhead's side.
The monsters look scary but are actually lovable. How did you balance silly and scary and sweet so kids would feel brave while they watch?
The monsters in the film, I think, are generally quite cute compared to the monsters in the book. The monsters in the book, we kind of very deliberately made them kind of as visually scary as they could be. And then the minute you spoke to them, they were incredibly friendly and lovely and were like, "Oh, how are you doing? How marvelous to meet you!" And really couldn't be lovelier. And I really wanted that kind of contrast of them being just genuinely scary to look at.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bass, for sharing your time today and talking about Stitchhead.
It's been a genuine pleasure, Spencer. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay. Stitchhead releases in theaters on October 29th, 2025. Make sure to check it out. This is Spencer reporting for Kids First. Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more entertainment news for your family. Catch you next time. Bye!